So when I was in seminary, I met my first and best teacher in the art and practice of blessing. Her name was Jo Milgram, and she taught a course at my seminary called The Roots and Art of Jewish Spirituality. Professor Jo is a scholar and a conservative Jew who firmly and gracefully acquainted generations of Unitarian Universalist students with the spiritual practices of everyday Jewish life and the traditional mandates behind those practices. Jo taught us about the Jewish practice of blessing that Rachel Naomi Remen describes, the practice of offering appreciation to the holy for many things. There are blessings to be said as we prepare to eat or drink, or as we experience something new or something beautiful. For example, before you eat bread, you might say, "Blessed are you, O Holy One of blessing, who brings forth bread from the earth." Upon seeing a tree filled with blossoms, one might say, "Blessed are thou, O Eternal One, who has created such beauty." There are blessings for washing our hands, for seeing the sun rise or seeing it set, blessings for when something is lost or when it is found, and for when something begins and when it ends. It reminds me of that song, Call Down a Blessing. This blessing practice calls us to mindfulness of the beauty all around us, even in the smallest of things. These blessings actually apply to everything, from the mundane to the amazing, and they are to be offered by every person everywhere. In fact, according to the Talmud, that 2,600-year-old body of commentaries on Jewish civil and ceremonial law, an appropriate goal for the practice of blessing is for each of us to offer 100 of them every day. The practice of offering 100 blessings originated in the time of King David, when there was a terrible plague that was taking the life of 100 people every day. As the rabbis and healers studied the situation and puzzled over it, they discerned that there wasn't a physical cause for this plague. They discerned that the cause of this plague was spiritual. And when they instituted the practice of having people offer 100 blessings per day, the plague stopped. So let me say that again. When the people used their power to bless, the plague stopped. So how can this be? And yet, how can it not be? Even if the story is a metaphor, we know it's true that we human creatures crave and depend on relationship. Did you notice the phrasing of those blessings? Blessed are you, O oneness of being. These blessings remind us of our relationship with the sacred, however we construct that sacred. They remind us of our relationships with everything and everyone around us. 100 blessings a day is a lot of relational behavior. It is a building of relationships with that holy, again, however we define it for ourselves, and with other people. When we bless another, we give something of ourselves. And we don't truly receive a blessing if we're unconscious of the one who gives it to us. To offer a blessing and have it received is to connect with another person at a very deep level. To truly bless someone else or be blessed by them, we pull apart the layers of persona and defenses, that self-protection that armors us, to let blessings out and to let them come in and to let that wholeness flow between us. And so when the people of King David's time chose to be in relationship so intentionally, and they were so mindfully aware of their lives that holy sparks were released left, right, center, above, below, the plague, it stopped. After all, how could plague survive in such a powerful, intentional network of love? Now, I'm not going to say that there's some metaphysical magic going on here. I'm not saying that if we go around blessing each other and blessing things, the wars in Ukraine and Gaza are going to go away, or that the epidemic of gun violence will vanish, or that racism and homophobia and patriarchy or climate change are going to go away. It doesn't work that way. We know that. What I am saying, though, is that healing, wholeness, joy, peace, equity, and justice begin in our practices of relationship, mutuality, power sharing, and vulnerability in the face of all that we fear. Let me say that again. Healing, wholeness, joy, peace, and justice begin in our practices of relationship, mutuality, power sharing, and vulnerability in the face of everything we fear. We must generously practice kinship in the face of all the forces in our culture that seek to divide us, forces like capitalism, white supremacy, nationalism, legacies of colonialism. When I was there at the blessing booth at the Milwaukee Pride Fest, in the trustful moment of offering a blessing for healing or forgiveness or love or the very personal thing that someone being blessed had confided, I felt that deep connection between myself and the other person, and I understood then in a very real and embodied way that society is never going to affirm the equal worth and equal belovedness of all persons until we practice and build this belovedness with our own hearts and our own hands. And that means letting go of the ideology, consciously or unconsciously held, that somehow those of us who are at the top of the heap in our white, racist, ableist, cisgenderist, heteronormative, patriarchal system, letting go of the ideology that those of us at the top of the heap are luckier or better or more hardworking, more deserving than those other people. It means we remember that it's the culture and systems of white supremacy, the systems of privilege and oppression that give some of us wealth, health, and happiness, and give other people fewer opportunities, greater chances of poverty, plus elevated levels of stress and trauma that ruin lives, not just in the present moment, but generation after generation after generation. So what I really want to say to you today is that we have to consciously, deliberately, and frequently make the choice to bless one another and bless the world generously in all the ways that we can. So how do we do that? It's very possible to speak 100 blessings a day in the way prescribed by traditional Jewish practice, and I would encourage that. Give that a try. But that practice is really only intended to prime the pump. Here are some ways to bless that I encourage you to consider. Consider inconveniencing yourself by signing up to give your time more generously than you ever have as a volunteer for something important in your community or here in your congregation. Rise might be the perfect opportunity. Consider who or what in your sphere of relationships could use some of your cash to change the world. Even if you're not completely sure, and I'm in this boat, that you're not sure that you have cash to spare. Consider who or what could use some of your cash to change the world. Choose to bless by resisting the increasing concentration of power in your hands. Fiscal power, political power, relational power. To bless and to be a blessing. It is what we were born for. And in fact, I want to offer you an opportunity to practice blessing right here together, right now. So, in your order of service, you may have noticed this funny little thing that says Blessings Blender. I invented this little blessings blender ritual a long time ago, and here's how it works. Each one of you should have a slip of paper and something to write with, and you may have received that from our wonderful greeters on your way in. If you do not, put your hand up, and we have folks who will bring them to you. If you're watching at home, on Zoom, you should be able to do this process in the chat in the Zoom room. So we'll talk a little bit more about how you'll do that in a moment. Does everybody have their items? Okay. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the chime, and when I do that, not before, wait for the chime, I would like you to write a blessing on your slip of paper. What I want you to write is a blessing that anyone in this room might enjoy or appreciate. So you might write, "May you be blessed with good health." Our story had some good blessings in it, like, "May you be free from fear. May you find someone who will listen to your story until the very end. May you find joy in the deep boom of a belly laugh." You could just write a one-word blessing: comfort, love, compassion. Or maybe you think of something you're thankful for, like friendship. And you say, "May you be blessed with many friends." So, my favorite blessing is, "I'm so glad you're here today." Imagine getting that blessing. Ooh. And one more thing, don't sign your blessing slip. So let's take a moment now to write. Zoom people, pop your blessings into the chat. So write until you hear the bell again. That's the first bell. So this next part is the blender part of our blessings blender ritual. Take a moment now to fold up your slip of paper, maybe just fold it in quarters. In a moment, I will ring the chime again, and I'll invite you to rise and quietly walk around the room, exchanging your folded papers with other people. But first, a couple of things. One, I know some of us, this is not our thing. We don't want to do it. And that's all right. You don't have to do this. Just enjoy watching people move around you and stay quietly in your seat. The second thing is, some of us really want to do this, but we would rather not get up. We would rather stay seated. And so and that's okay too. If you need to stay seated, but you want to exchange blessings, stay in your seat and hold your paper up. Those of us who are moving will notice you, and we will come to you and exchange blessings. Third thing, very important, don't open up the paper every time you exchange with someone. Just meet their eyes, perhaps say quietly, "A blessing for you," and then move on to someone else. These quiet connections are one of the main points of this ritual. So go slowly, almost meditatively, and connect quietly. And finally, when you hear the bell again, return to your seat. That's the time we will open and read the blessings that we have received. Noe is going to play some more lovely music for us to walk around to. So wait until you hear the music begin, and then we can begin to move. And remember, don't open it until you're back in your seat. Just keep exchanging quietly a blessing for you. Okay. Thank you, Noe. Yes, please return to your seats. And as you open your blessing and read what's on that little slip of paper, or for you who are in Zoom, as you read blessings that are in the chat, pause for a moment and take into your heart what's written on that little slip of paper. This blessing came to you because you took the chance to come to church today, to be part of this community. Somebody in this room wrote this blessing from their heart, and it's now yours to keep. It's okay if you got your own. I hope the blessing you have received will inspire you to use your power. Use your power to bless. And keep using your power to bless. And may we always remember that the power of our blessing, whether we have a lot or a little, the power of our blessing will help us create that world of true equity and true peace, true justice, and true compassion that we long for. That beloved community where all persons and all living things are respected and held as part of a greater wholeness. May your blessings abound, given and received. Shalom, blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.